Most people are aware that keeping holy the Sabbath day is one of the 10 Commandments. As we Catholic Christians enumerate them, it's number 3, the third of the first 3 that have to do with our relationship with God. But I was asked recently, well, what does that look like? What are we supposed to do to keep holy the Sabbath day? I mean, certainly a part of that is attending Sunday worship, going to Mass. In fact, that's something that even in Scripture, in the letter to the Hebrews, it explains that we're supposed to be going to regular worship, and people even in those days weren't always doing that, because it's important for us to encourage one another. That's the language that the author of that letter uses. But for us today, what else does that mean? I was reflecting on when I was young, my mother would read to us from the Little House books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, very well known as Little House on the Prairie, but there were a series of books at different moments that they had moved around, and when they described Sunday worship, it was a very puritanical understanding of the Sabbath. There was no fun, there was no play, there was no work. It was dedicated to God, to reading the Bible, and in fact, they had to sneak out of their house one time and they got in a great deal of trouble just for trying to go sled riding because the snow was particularly good that afternoon. And so when their father fell asleep, they went out and rode on the sled and got in terrible trouble for it. Is that what we have in mind by the Sabbath day of rest? Well, no, certainly not. That's not something that I would be expecting of anybody. And in fact, the Catholic Church doesn't really outline what it needs to look like on the Sabbath day of rest, but it does provide some guidelines in the Catechism, which I think might be helpful. So I'm going to read one of the paragraphs. It's paragraph 2184. Just as God rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had done, human life has a rhythm of work and rest. The institution of the Lord's Day helps everyone enjoy adequate rest and leisure to cultivate their familial, cultural, social, and religious lives. The institution of the Lord's Day helps everyone enjoy adequate rest and leisure to cultivate their familial, cultural, social, and religious lives. When we think of the word rest, for a lot of us, I think that can often mean catching up on sleep. Because we often run ourselves ragged. We get up early, we go to bed late, we are tired all the time, we drink coffee or energy drinks just to maintain this sort of state of alertness. And it's important, I think, for us to be able to prioritize sleep in our lives. And so for a lot of people, they wonder, well, isn't it better for me on a Sunday morning to sleep in rather than going to Mass? Well, not necessarily. If you're sleep deprived, sure, but the question is, why are you sleep deprived? You see, what the Catechism is asking us to do is to really reflect on what rest is, and what work is, and what leisure is. Because we can create these rules that tell us the way things are supposed to be, how to keep holy the Sabbath. But remember what happened in Jesus' day. The Pharisees and the other scribes, they had these very strict rules on how to observe the Sabbath. And Jesus didn't always participate in that. You can remember the number of times they criticized him for eating or for picking grain on a Sabbath because his disciples were hungry, or for curing somebody of their disease or a malady on a Sunday, and saying, which of you, if your animal had fallen in a well, wouldn't pull them out on a Sabbath to rescue their life? Why can I not do that for a human person? So, trying to legislate or to sort of say, well, these are the things you have to do, is a very difficult thing to do, because it changes culturally. But the one thing that remains constant is Sunday worship. But if we can, I think, enter into it more deeply, what it means to rest, what it means to have leisure. It's been my experience, and sometimes I have done this, where you have a free day and you say, I'm going to just watch some Netflix. And you can binge watch a TV show or a series of movies, whatever it is. And let's say you do that for hours and hours. After you're finished, do you feel rested? I know I haven't. I feel tired because I have done something way too much, first of all. But that thing didn't actually bring me very much rest. So I think the Catechism gets it right. The Sabbath is a day about family, about culture, about being social, and about being religious. Because if we think of rest as more than just catching up on sleep or just relaxing, it has a much deeper significance. Sure, when we wake up in the morning, we don't want to feel tired, but there's a deeper kind of tired. The tired of not being motivated, of not understanding why we're doing what we're doing. And that's a deeper, more penetrating kind of tiredness that is harder perhaps to overcome. That's why so many people, I think, fall into a sort of depression or have so much anxiety in their lives. They might be surface level resting by sleeping or vegging out, but they're not getting that deep rest that we need. When I was growing up, we always went to our grandparents on Sundays after Mass. That was just what we did. And to spend time with family, with our cousins around a big meal, it wasn't always the most rest-filled activity. It was sometimes tiring. You went home tired, but then we went to sleep and we woke up and we were ready for the week. Because it does something to the spirit to spend time with those we love, to recover the importance of family. That's something that Pope Benedict XVI reflected on in his Jesus of Nazareth book. He was thinking about the Jewish customs, and certainly the rigorism of the rules needed to be addressed by Jesus. But at the same time, that rigor also resulted in a day that was left for family and for faith. And I think in our today's world, we've kind of lost that a little bit. You know, most people do their grocery shopping on Sundays. The stores are always filled on Sundays. Have we ever considered, though, that when we go to a store on Sunday, that we are in effect requiring somebody to staff that business, to work on a Sunday? It may seem impossible to us to have any effect on how to change that, but think about what's happened in the pandemic. A lot of restaurants, sadly, have reduced their hours because they don't have enough help and they don't have enough people coming. Well, I'm not suggesting that we boycott businesses, but if people didn't conduct business as much on Sundays, could we see a return to the way things were 50 years ago when many businesses were closed on Sundays because of the Sabbath day of rest? I think that's the only way that something like that would be recovered. For people to not have to work so much on Sundays is if there were less demand for services on Sunday. So I think it's a worthy reflection of our own habits, of our own lives. How do we treat our Sundays? Are we focused on family, on the things that really rest, on our relationship with God? Are those at the forefront of our Sundays? Or do we treat it like just another day and maybe we go to church in the morning? The church doesn't really give us set rules except for the obligation to attend Mass. But it's always a worthy reflection of every Christian life to think, am I doing the things that help me and those around me to truly keep holy the Sabbath day? God bless, and we'll see you next time.